Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa channel. Let's continue. Anso paused for a moment, slightly startled by the sudden weight that clung to his arm, before lowering his gaze and finding a small porcelain rabbit instead of a person. Thea stood there, holding it out as though she were offering a rare treasure to be protected. She blinked slowly, uncertain whether to smile or step back. He explained in a strangely calm voice that he had rushed here because he thought she had vanished. Her confusion deepened. Her fingers tightened around the figurine, its cold surface unexpectedly smooth. She whispered faintly that it was pretty, without meaning to sound gentle. Tilting her head, she asked if this was the same figurine that used to be in her old room. She stopped herself midway, brushing the idea aside with a quiet laugh. Looking closer, she noticed the delicate cracks running along its base, the uneven glaze as if it had been repaired in the dark. He claimed it was a token meant to protect her from losing her way. His unwavering tone made her blink in disbelief. Slowly, she realized he had made it himself. That understanding unearthed an old scene she thought buried. She remembered standing before a pile of broken toys years ago. Miol had walked in and asked why she stared at something so childish. He had mocked her gently, asking if she still wanted to look small despite growing older. He had even warned her to remember where she belonged and stop acting like a child. She remembered how heat had rushed to her cheeks as she stepped away, mumbling excuses. The image faded when she pulled the figurine close and held it tightly against her chest. She whispered a soft thank you, barely heard but deeply meant. Thea nodded as if expecting nothing else. After a long silence, Tetem admitted he had run off simply because he hated the dullness of routine. He leaned against Anso with a lazy sigh and asked if she wanted to disappear with him. Her gaze tried to be firm but came out almost playful. She remarked that grown-ups did not escape their duties. He countered instantly that if so, this was not escaping but abducting. Before she could react, he lifted her effortlessly and swung her over his shoulder like a sack of grain. She gasped, demanding to be put down, pounding at his back with frustrated hands. Meanwhile, in Anso's place, I wore the apron. The owner, startled to see him return, muttered under her breath about whether he had come back to fill in for another worker again. She eyed him suspiciously and remarked that at this rate, he might grow too attached to the place. She asked why he never considered working full-time there. Jerry responded with mock arrogance, calling himself part of the premium workforce, pretending he was far too valuable to belong to a single place. The owner smirked faintly and warned that once the rush began, he would lose the privilege of slipping away for a nicotine break. She pointed out that she had caught him smoking earlier even before the shop had opened. She suggested he finish his smoke now before she reconsidered allowing them to linger around. I followed her outside, entertained by the entire scene. He leaned against the wall, cigarette between his fingers, exhaling without a word. His gaze drifted lazily down the street, and he muttered about some people heading out on romantic outings while others scrubbed metal gates. A quiet laugh escaped him as he added that those who had someone to love seemed untouched by the rest of the world. He concluded they were better left alone than dragged into needless messes. As the smoke slipped past his lips, Get's eyes narrowed sharply. He felt a nearness and spun around, startled to find a figure emerging from the shadows. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Thea guided Hano along the street, unaware of anything unusual. Anso walked nearby, lost in her own drifting thoughts. She noticed how when she walked alone, she was always the one stepping aside for oncoming people. But now, walking with Thea, the strangers moved out of their way without hesitation, apologizing as they passed. She glanced at him with mild irritation. Something about it felt ridiculous and unfair. Her eyes lowered to his collar and froze. His shirt was half unbuttoned, exposing faint marks on his neck. She narrowed her eyes and ordered him to lower his head. He looked puzzled but complied. Without warning, she reached out and fastened the buttons one by one. TH mumbled about feeling suffocated, but she paid no attention. He sighed lightly, struggling for air as Anso grumbled about what people might think seeing him like this. A group of girls walked past, casting subtle looks toward Thea and his sharp appearance. One whispered that he looked dangerous in an oddly magnetic way. Another quickly scolded her, calling her insane. Anso caught every word, feeling both annoyed and strangely unsettled. She ordered Thea to lower his head again and forced the last button shut with unnecessary strength. Thea flashed a wicked grin and accused her of deliberately messing with his collar. She stiffened for a second, caught off guard. He teased her more, reminding her that she had been the one to tug it open earlier. Their back and forth went on as a shadow crept silently behind them. Meanwhile, I watched the customers closely, noting how people in the same line of work could recognize each other in a heartbeat. It was easy to read the subtle signs, their posture, their gaze, the way they reacted to sudden movement. As he pretended to drop a glass bottle, the old man beside him caught it effortlessly before it hit the floor. I recognized the reflex immediately. My eyes narrowed. The old man warned him to be more careful, saying he could have been hurt. I kept a polite smile while memorizing every flick of his hand. He began to move away, but the owner called after him, asking where he thought he was going. She added that she hoped he wasn't planning to disappear just because things got tough. I responded with a calm grin, saying I was only stepping out to smoke. Once outside, I wasted no time. He slammed the old man against the wall in one swift motion, gripping the back of his head tightly. His voice turned low as he growled that he had spent the entire day switching out grids, demanding to know who had sent him. The old man chuckled, amused. I cursed inwardly, realizing the strange feeling earlier hadn't been paranoia. It had been planned. Someone had wanted to be noticed. He wondered briefly if the target was just him or Thea too. At that moment, Thea turned into a narrow alley. He spotted 3 figures standing too still and making far too much noise for people trying to blend into the dark. He sensed the intent behind it, as if the stranger wanted to be noticed. Before he could decide on a response, Anso called his name. He turned back and leaned forward, forcing a calm posture. A split second passed between stepping in or pretending nothing had happened. He had trained himself to suppress his reflexes whenever eyes were on him. Since Anso was there, he decided it was smarter to avoid any conflict unless the situation with Jet became critical. To his surprise, Hanso suddenly seized his wrist and told him to run. He stared at her in disbelief, silently wondering how she knew. She simply urged him to hurry. As they raced through the dim streets, Anso's thoughts scattered in rapid bursts. She understood that those who had spent their lives being hunted could always recognize that look in someone else's eyes. He had always carried that same look deep within him. She remembered how his scars appeared like golden fractures across his skin, flawed yet unyielding. His breathing often sounded crushed beneath some invisible weight. She did not know when it happened, but somewhere along the line, she began to feel his pain as if it had always been hers. Footsteps echoed close behind them. She wondered what kind of person was chasing them, money collectors or someone worse. Maybe he had crossed into dangerous circles to clear some debt. The street around them grew darker, the silence heavier. Most of the shops had already shut down. She cursed herself for not steering them toward a more crowded place. Panic pressed at the edges of her mind as she questioned what they should do, what came next. The sound of pursuit lingered until they halted in front of an adult hotel, where the night seemed to tighten around them like a trap.